The stars looked different from the observation deck of the relentless Discovery. Captain Alan Wright stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the endless black canvas dotted with unfamiliar constellations. The ship had traveled farther than any human vessel before, reaching the outer edges of the Sol system on humanity's first true deep space exploration mission. "Beautiful, isn't it?" said Commander Olivia Martinez, stepping beside him. Her dark hair was pulled back, in a tight bun, her uniform crisp despite the 18 months they'd been in space. "Almost makes you forget how dangerous it is out here," Alan replied, his eyes not leaving the viewport. Olivia smiled. "You always were a worrier." "Someone has to be." The ship's intercom crackled to life. "Captain Wright to the bridge. Urgent." Alan's peaceful moment shattered. He exchanged a quick glance with Olivia before they both rushed through the corridors of the massive exploration vessel. When they reached the bridge, the atmosphere was tense. Officers moved with purpose between stations. Voices low but urgent. "Report," Alan ordered as he took his seat in the command chair. Navigation Officer Ben Collins turned from his console, face pale. "Sir, we're picking up multiple objects approaching at high speed. They're massive, and they're not natural formations." "Shodo." "Me." The main screen flickered to life, displaying a real-time image of space ahead of them. At first, Alan saw nothing unusual, just the empty black. Then he noticed movement. Shapes emerging from the darkness, growing larger as they approached. The objects were sleek, their surfaces reflecting the distant sunlight with a metallic sheen. "Ships," Alan said quietly. "Alien ships." For generations, humanity had wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, delivered in the form of what was clearly a battle fleet. "How many?" Alan asked. 27 large vessels, sir," Ben replied, "plus smaller craft. Conservative estimate puts their fleet at over 200 total." Communications Officer Kelly Ward called out from her station. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission, audio and visual." Alan straightened his uniform jacket. "Put it through." The screen changed, revealing a being unlike anything humans had encountered before. Its skin was pale blue, stretched tight over a face with features that seemed almost insect-like. Large, multifaceted eyes dominated its appearance, glittering with intelligence. When it spoke, its mouth moved in strange ways, but the words came through in perfect English, likely translated by whatever technology they possessed. "I am Grand Commander Vexithal of the Khazari Dominion," the alien said. "You have entered space claimed by the Dominion. Identify yourselves." Alan stepped forward. "I am Captain Alan Wright of the Earth vessel Relentless Discovery. We are on a peaceful exploration mission, and were unaware this region was claimed by any civilization. We mean no trespass or offense." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Earth. Yes, we have observed your kind from afar. A primitive species just beginning to venture beyond your cradle. You are fortunate to meet us now, rather than after you have spread further and required more extensive correction." Alan felt a chill run down his spine. "We are eager to establish peaceful relations with the Khazari. Perhaps we could arrange a formal meeting of representatives." "There is nothing to discuss," Vexithal interrupted. "The Dominion does not establish relations with lesser species. We offer you a simple choice. Surrender now and join the 17 other civilizations that serve us, or face elimination. You have one of your Earth weeks to decide." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "Sir," Olivia said after a moment, "what are your orders?" Alan turned to Kelly. "Send an encrypted message to Earth. Priority Alpha. Include everything that just happened. Tell them," he paused, "tell them we've made first contact and it's not friendly." The next 3 days passed in tense silence. The Khazari fleet maintained their position, surrounding the Relentless Discovery, but taking no hostile action. Vexthal communicated once more, requesting permission to send a small delegation to the human ship to discuss the terms of surrender. Against the advice of his security chief, Alan agreed. He needed to learn more about these aliens if humanity was to have any chance. The Khazari shuttle docked with precision. 4 aliens emerged, Vex, Thal, and 3 guards. They moved with fluid grace despite the unfamiliar gravity. "Your vessel is impressive for such a young species," Vex Thal said, as Alan led them to the conference room. "Though painfully outdated by our standards. We're still learning," Alan replied diplomatically. In the conference room, Vex Thal placed a small device on the table. It projected a holographic map of the galaxy, with large sections highlighted in red. "The Khazari Dominion," the alien explained, "spanning 3,000 star systems across 4 galactic arms. We have conquered every civilization we have encountered for the past 800 years. None have prevailed against us." Alan studied the map, noting Earth's position at the edge of a red zone. "And what happens to those who surrender?" "They serve. They provide resources, labor, and troops. In exchange, they receive protection and are allowed to continue existing." Vex Thal's multifaceted eyes fixed on Alan. "It is more than fair." "And those who refuse?" The alien's mouth formed what might have been a smile. "None refuse for long." Back on Earth, the United Nations Space Command had convened an emergency session. Admiral Samantha Daniels presided over the assembly of military leaders and government officials from nations around the world. "We've analyzed the data from the relentless discovery," she explained to the grim-faced gathering. "The Khazari technology is centuries beyond ours. Their weaponry could likely destroy our entire defense fleet in minutes." "Then we have no choice but to negotiate terms," said one representative. Dr. Peter Lawson, head of xenobiology at the Global Space Agency, shook his head. "Based on Captain Wright's report, these aliens don't negotiate. They dominate. And from what we can tell, their protection is just another word for slavery." Colonel Grace Martinez of the United Americas Defense Force stood up. "Then we fight. Humans have faced impossible odds before. And died gloriously," someone retorted. "This isn't a movie, Colonel. These are actual aliens with technology we can barely understand." Admiral Daniels raised her hand for silence. "We need options, not arguments. Dr. Lawson, is there anything in the data that suggests a weakness?" "Not yet," he admitted. "But we've only just begun analyzing it. My team is working around the clock." As the debate continued, screens around the room suddenly lit up with an incoming transmission. It was Captain Wright. "Admiral," he said, his image slightly distorted by the vast distance. "The Khazari have allowed me to communicate once more before our deadline. There's something you should know." He looked tired, his normally neat appearance disheveled. "I've had several more meetings with Vex Thal. They're confident, overconfident. They've never lost a war, never faced real resistance. They expect us to either surrender immediately or put up a token fight before being crushed." "And what do you recommend, Captain?" Admiral Daniels asked. Alan's expression hardened. "Humanity doesn't bow. We've survived ice ages, plagues, and our own self-destructive tendencies. We're not about to surrender to the first aliens who demand it." The room fell silent. "Besides," he added with a grim smile, "they may have never lost a war, but they've never fought humans before." With time running short, Earth prepared for war. The United Nations Space Command transformed its headquarters into a 24-hour war room. Maps of the solar system covered the walls, showing defense positions and possible attack vectors. Coffee cups piled up as military leaders worked without rest. In the science wing, Dr. Peter Lawson hadn't slept in 36 hours. His eyes were red-rimmed as he studied the data from the relentless discovery. Captain Wright had managed to send detailed scans of the Khazari ships before communication became more restricted. "Found anything useful?" asked Dr. Lisa Bell as she entered the lab. The xenobiologist carried 2 steaming cups, placing one beside Peter. "Maybe." Peter rubbed his eyes. "Look at these energy readings from their shields." Lisa leaned in, studying the numbers on the screen. "They're cyclic, rising and falling in a pattern." "Exactly. And the pattern changes when they're hit with different types of energy." Peter sipped the coffee gratefully. "I think their shields are tuned specifically to counter energy weapons, plasma, lasers, particle beams. But that's all we have. Lisa said. Peter shook his head. Not everything. We still have plenty of old-fashioned kinetic weapons, missiles, railguns, even nukes in space. You think the Khazari shields might be vulnerable to those? I think they might be less effective, at least. The Khazari have conquered 17 advanced civilizations. They're used to fighting enemies who use technology similar to their own. Lisa's eyes widened with understanding. But not primitive technology like ours. Exactly. Sometimes being behind can be an advantage. Peter turned to a new screen showing strange symbols. I've been analyzing their language too. Frank Ortiz from computing is helping me build a better translation program than the basic one the Relentless Discovery is using. Frank entered the lab, his tall frame stooping slightly under the low doorway. And I think we're getting somewhere, he said. The Khazari language has structures similar to predator species. Their whole culture seems built around domination, which means they don't expect prey to fight back effectively, Lisa concluded. In another part of the complex, Colonel Grace Martinez stood before a holographic display of the solar system. Junior officers watched as she moved planets and moons around like chess pieces. The Khazari will expect us to defend Earth directly, she explained. That's what any rational species would do, protect the homeworld at all costs. Isn't that exactly what we should do? Asked Lieutenant Joe Wilson. It's what they expect us to do, Grace corrected, and they have the firepower to break through. Any direct defense we could mount, so we won't fight fair. She manipulated the display, highlighting the asteroid belt, Jupiter's moons, and several space stations. We place our assets here, here, and here, hidden, waiting. A trap? Asked another officer. An ambush, Grace said with a grim smile. Humanity's oldest tactic. On the Relentless Discovery, Captain Wright faced another meeting with Vexthal. The Khazari commander seemed impatient. Your deadline approaches, human, Vexthal said. Has your species made the wise choice to surrender? We're still discussing options, Alan replied carefully. He needed to buy more time. There are no options. Only submission or destruction. Vexithal's multifaceted eyes gleamed. I have studied your history. You are a fractured species, divided by petty differences. You cannot hope to stand united against us. Alan kept his face neutral, not wanting to show how the alien's words affected him. We may surprise you. We have never been surprised by lesser species, Vexithal said dismissively. Your weapons are primitive. Your ships are slow. Your tactics will be predictable. If we're so primitive, why bother offering us a chance to surrender? Alan asked. Why not just destroy us? Something flickered across Vexthal's alien features. Resources. Efficiency. It is easier to manage willing slaves than to rebuild after destruction. But Alan caught something in the alien's tone. Not fear, but perhaps caution. The Khazari weren't as dismissive of humanity as they pretended to be. Back on Earth, Admiral Daniels presented the final defense plan to the world leaders. The room was somber as she outlined humanity's slim chances. We cannot match their technology, she admitted. But we don't need to. We just need to surprise them enough to make them reconsider. And if we can't, asked the Chinese president, then we make them pay so dearly for their victory that they'll remember Earth for generations, Samantha said firmly. The plan combined Dr. Lawson's findings about the Khazari shields with Colonel Martinez's unconventional tactics. Earth's remaining spaceships would not form a defensive line around the planet as expected. Instead, they would hide throughout the solar system, ready to strike from unexpected angles. Meanwhile, Dr. Bell had discovered something interesting about Khazari communication systems. They use quantum entanglement for instant communication across vast distances, she explained to the War Council. But the system has to be tuned precisely. If we could disrupt it, their fleet would lose coordination. Frank finished her thought. Each ship would fight alone. Can we do that? Admiral Daniels asked. Maybe, Frank said. I've been working on a virus that could infiltrate their systems. But someone would need to get it inside their network. A suicide mission, Samantha said quietly. Potentially, Lisa admitted. But it could turn the tide. As the deadline approached, Captain Wright received permission to return to Earth for final consultations. The Khazari, confident in their superiority, allowed the relentless Discovery to depart, following at a distance with their massive fleet. When Alan walked into the war room on Earth, he was met with determined faces rather than the fear he had expected. "They're overconfident," he reported. "Vexthal doesn't believe we'll put up much of a fight." "Good," Colonel Martinez said. "The more they underestimate us, the better our chances." "What have you learned about their previous conquests?" Admiral Daniels asked. "All 17 species they've subjugated fought conventionally," Alan explained. "Standing armies, defended territories, direct confrontations. The Khazari have perfected their approach against that type of resistance." "Then we don't fight conventionally," Samantha concluded. "We fight like humans, dirty, sneaky, unpredictable." Dr. Lawson entered with the latest findings. "We've confirmed the shield weakness. Their defenses are calibrated for high-energy impacts, not solid projectiles. Railguns and missiles might be effective if we can get close enough. And we've prepared some surprises of our own," Grace added. "Old nuclear submarines retrofitted for space combat. Military satellites that have been dormant for years, now armed with tungsten rods for kinetic strikes." As they finalized the details, a communications officer burst into the room. "Admiral, the Khazari fleet has accelerated. They'll be in Earth orbit in 6 hours. Before the deadline," Alan noted grimly. "They never intended to honor it," Samantha realized. "They were just giving themselves time to get into position." "Then we're out of time," Grace said. Admiral Daniels looked around the room at the faces of humanity's defenders. "Send the signal. All forces to battle positions." She turned to the window, looking up at the stars where soon alien warships would appear. "Let's show these Khazari what happens when you challenge the one species that never learned to surrender." The Khazari ships appeared in Earth's sky like new stars, bright points of light visible even in daylight. People around the world looked up and knew their lives would never be the same again. Some prayed, others held their loved ones close. Many headed to emergency shelters as sirens wailed across cities. In the Space Command headquarters, Admiral Samantha Daniels stood before the main display. The enemy fleet was arranging itself in a perfect geometric pattern above Earth. A battle, formation they had likely used countless times before. "They're positioning for a standard orbital bombardment," reported the tactical officer. "Targeting major cities and military installations first." Samantha nodded. "Right on schedule. Are our forces in position?" "Yes, Admiral. All units report. Ready." The Admiral took a deep breath. "Then let's begin." Operation Trojan Horse is a go. Around the world, hidden missile silos opened. But instead of firing upward at the Khazari fleet, the missiles launched sideways, skimming the atmosphere before curving up and away from Earth. They weren't aiming for the alien ships above. They were heading toward empty space. On the Khazari command ship, Vexthal observed the missile launches with amusement. "Primitive weapons," he commented to his officers. "They will never reach our altitude before we destroy them." "Grand Commander," one of his subordinates reported, "the human missiles are not targeting our fleet. They appear to be retreating." Vexathal's multifaceted eyes narrowed. "Retreating? Scan their trajectory." Before his crew could respond, the main view screen flashed warnings. New contacts were appearing behind the Khazari fleet, dozens of them, then hundreds. "What is happening?" Vexathal demanded. "Unknown objects approaching. From lunar orbit," an officer reported. "They were hidden from our sensors. The human missiles appear to be heading to rendezvous with them." Vexthal had conquered enough worlds to know when something unexpected was happening. "Raise shields to maximum. Prepare for..." His order was cut short as the first impact struck. Not energy beams or plasma, just simple metal rods accelerated to incredible speeds. They slammed into the Khazari ships from behind, where their shields were weaker. From lunar orbit, human space stations that had been disguised as mining operations revealed their true purpose: They were mass drivers, enormous railguns firing, tungsten rods at near-relativistic speeds. The simple projectiles carried no explosives, no technology the Khazari could counter. Just mass and velocity, the most basic weapons of all. 3 Khazari ships erupted in silent explosions before they could reposition their shields. Earth's missiles, meanwhile, had reached their destinations, abandoned satellites and space junk that had been dormant for years. The missiles docked with these platforms, providing fuel and guidance systems. Suddenly, the debris field around Earth came alive, revealing hidden weapons platforms. Colonel Grace Martinez watched from a command bunker. "Launch the fighters." From concealed hangars around the world, small spacecraft shot upward. They were not the large, impressive warships the Khazari might have expected. These were single-pilot fighters, quick and agile, designed for one purpose: to be hard to hit. The Earth forces had no intention of engaging the Khazari in direct combat. Instead, they darted in, launched their payloads, and immediately retreated. Their targets were specific: communication arrays, sensor nodes, weapon ports. In space, the battle unfolded like nothing the Khazari had ever experienced. There was no enemy fleet to engage, no formations to counter. Just attacks from all directions, seemingly random but actually precisely coordinated. "What is this?" Vexthal raged as another of his ships reported critical damage. "Where is their main fleet? Where are their capital ships?" "Unknown, Grand Commander," his tactical officer replied. "Our sensors detect numerous small craft, but no large vessels apart from the one we followed here." On the relentless Discovery, Captain Alan Wright coordinated the space battle. His ship was heavily damaged from a Khazari attack, but its communication systems were still functional. "Target the flagship's port sensor array," he ordered, "then pull back immediately." He watched as human fighters executed the attack, striking precisely at the weak point Dr. Lawson had identified, then scattering before the Khazari could lock weapons. On Earth, Dr. Peter Lawson, Lisa Bell, and Frank Ortiz monitored the battle from the science lab. Their screens showed the status of both human and alien forces. Despite the initial success, the situation remained dire. "We've surprised them," Peter said. "But they're adapting quickly. Look at how they're repositioning their shields." Lisa nodded grimly. "And we've lost 40% of our fighters already." "We need to deploy the virus," Frank decided. "It's our only chance at a decisive advantage." Admiral Daniels gave the order. A special team of volunteers, led by Lieutenant Joe Wilson, boarded a captured Khazari shuttle. The small craft had been taken intact when its mothership was destroyed in the initial barrage. "Remember," Joe told his team as they prepared to launch, "we need to dock with the Khazari command ship and reach their central computer. Once there, Frank's virus will do the rest." Their mission was perhaps the most dangerous of all. While the main battle raged, drawing the Khazari's attention, the captured shuttle would approach the enemy flagship, posing as a returning scout craft. The ruse worked, for a time. The shuttle was cleared for docking, and Joe's team made it aboard the massive alien vessel. Wearing stolen Khazari armor, they moved through the corridors, following the ship schematics Dr. Lawson had pieced together from sensor data, but they were discovered just short of their goal. Alarms blared throughout the Khazari flagship. "We're not going to make it to the central computer," Joe told his team as enemy troops closed in from both directions. "New plan. We plant the virus here and detonate the charges." It wasn't the perfect solution, but it might be enough. They uploaded the virus to a local terminal and set explosive charges around it. As the Khazari forces broke through their defenses, Joe hit the detonator. The explosion ripped through a section of the flagship, not enough to destroy it, but sufficient to create chaos. More importantly, the virus entered the system. It wasn't in the central computer as planned, but it began to spread nonetheless. Throughout the Khazari fleet, systems faltered. Ship-to-ship communications became garbled. Targeting computers gave false readings. It wasn't a complete shutdown, but it created confusion, and in the midst of battle, confusion was deadly. 3 days into the battle, Earth had achieved what 17 other civilizations could not. 5 Khazari capital ships had been destroyed, and several others crippled. The cost was enormous. Major cities lay in ruins from orbital strikes, and half of Earth's space forces were gone. On the 4th day, Vexthal made an unexpected decision. The remaining Khazari ships broke formation and retreated to the edge of the solar system. In the war room, exhausted officers watched in disbelief. "Are they leaving?" someone asked. Admiral Daniels shook her head. "Regrouping. They'll be back, with new strategies and countermeasures." "But we've done it," Captain Wright said, his voice hoarse from days of issuing commands. "We've survived the first wave. We've shown them we won't be an easy conquest." Colonel Martinez nodded. "We've won the battle, but the war is just beginning." As the Khazari ships retreated, their Grand Commander stood alone in his chamber. For the first time in his long career, Vexthal felt something unfamiliar: doubt. These humans fought like no species the Dominion had ever encountered. They didn't follow the rules of warfare as the Khazari understood them. "Prepare a full report. For the High Command," he ordered his subordinate. Tell them we will need reinforcements." 6 weeks passed since the first battle. Earth used this precious time to prepare for the Khazari's return. Every factory on the planet switched to producing weapons and supplies. Children helped collect scrap metal. Farmers shared food. For once, the nations of Earth worked together against a common enemy. The relentless Discovery, badly damaged in the first battle, was rebuilt and strengthened. Engineers added armor made from captured Khazari materials. Scientists installed new weapons based on alien technology they had studied from the wreckage. Captain Alan Wright walked through his ship, inspecting the repairs. Commander Olivia Martinez joined him as he entered the new bridge. "She's not pretty anymore," Olivia said, looking at the mismatched panels and exposed wiring. "But she's stronger." Alan nodded. "Like all of us." On Earth, Dr. Peter Lawson's team made important discoveries. They had captured several intact pieces of Khazari technology, including a small scout ship. "Look at this," Lisa Bell said, pointing to a strange device they had removed from the alien craft. "It's some kind of quantum communicator. The Khazari use it to talk instantly across any distance." Frank Ortiz studied the device closely. "If we could reverse engineer this, we could listen to their communications, maybe even send false orders." In another lab, Colonel Grace Martinez trained pilots for the next battle. The simulator room was filled with the sounds of mock combat as pilots learned to fight the Khazari using Earth's new hybrid ships. "They'll come back with better shields," Grace warned her pilots. "They've learned from the first battle, but so have we." The warning system blared suddenly, interrupting the training. Red lights flashed throughout all Earth facilities. The Khazari had returned, this time with an even larger fleet. Admiral Samantha Daniels called an emergency meeting. "They've adapted their shields," she told the gathered leaders. "Our kinetic weapons won't be as effective this time." "But we've adapted too," Peter Lawson replied. He pulled up a holographic display showing new weapon designs. "These are phase-shifting missiles. They'll change frequency as they approach, making it harder for their shields to block them. And we've set up defense platforms throughout the asteroid belt," Grace added. "Plus, we've hidden ships behind Mars and several moons." Alan Wright, joining via video from the relentless Discovery, spoke next. "Our intelligence suggests they're focusing on knocking out our infrastructure this time. They've realized this won't be a quick victory." The Admiral nodded grimly. "Then we need to protect our key facilities at all costs, and we need to hurt them badly enough that they consider leaving our system altogether." The second battle began differently than the first. The Khazari didn't immediately attack Earth. Instead, they methodically destroyed human outposts on the Moon, Mars, and throughout the asteroid belt. They had learned from their earlier mistake: no more rushing in. Vexthal directed the assault from his repaired flagship. "Find their hidden weapons," he ordered. "Destroy their supply lines. Cut them off from their outer defenses." His officers followed orders efficiently, having learned to respect the human threat. But the Khazari still believed in their ultimate victory. They had conquered every species they had ever faced. These humans were clever, but they would fall. Eventually. What Vexthal didn't know was that Dr. Bell and Frank Ortiz had succeeded in cracking the Khazari communication codes. Even now they listened to every order the alien commander gave. They're planning to attack the lunar base next, Lisa reported to Admiral Daniels. They think it's our main supply depot, Samantha smiled. Good. The trap is ready. The lunar base was indeed filled with supplies, old nuclear warheads stripped from Earth's disarmed missiles years ago. When the Khazari fleet moved into position, above it, Colonel Martinez gave the order. Detonate. The explosion was massive, visible from Earth as a bright flash on the moon's surface. The nuclear blast caught 3 Khazari ships that had moved in close, destroying one and crippling 2 others. But the Khazari were learning too. They quickly adjusted their tactics, keeping greater distance from human installations before destroying them. The battle settled into a grim pattern. The aliens would destroy a human outpost and the humans would find a way to make them pay for it. After 2 weeks of fighting, both sides had suffered heavy losses. 5 more Khazari capital ships had been destroyed, but humanity had lost most of its outer system defenses. The most daring plan came from Dr. Bell. We need to board their command ship, she told the War Council. Not just to plant a virus this time, but to steal their complete technical database. That's suicide, Alan objected. Maybe, Lisa admitted. But if we succeed, we'll gain centuries of advanced technology. We could build weapons that actually match theirs. Frank Ortiz raised his hand. I've developed a more sophisticated virus. If we can get it into their main computer, it won't just create confusion like last time. It will give us control of their systems. The mission was approved. Captain Wright would lead a small team on what might be a one-way journey. The relentless Discovery, now equipped with partial cloaking technology reverse-engineered from a downed Khazari scout ship, would approach the enemy flagship during a larger battle. Day before the mission, Alan met with Admiral Daniels in private. If we don't come back, he said, implement Protocol Omega. Samantha looked troubled. Are you sure? That would destroy half the solar system. Better that than letting the Khazari take Earth. The battle began at dawn. Earth forces launched a major attack near Jupiter, drawing most of the Khazari fleet. Meanwhile, the relentless Discovery slipped through the enemy lines, its hybrid cloaking technology hiding it from all but the most detailed scans. They approached the massive Khazari flagship from below, attaching to a maintenance hatch that Dr. Lawson had identified from captured schematics. Alan led a team of 6, the best Earth had to offer. Remember, he told them as they prepared to board, our primary goal is the central computer. We get in, Frank uploads the virus, Dr. Bell downloads their database, and we get out. No heroics. They cut through the hatch and entered the alien vessel. Using the ship layouts Frank had memorized, they moved quickly through the massive vessel, avoiding patrols when possible, using silent weapons when not. They were halfway to the central computer when alarms blared. They had been discovered. Run, Alan ordered, and the team sprinted down the corridor as alien security forces closed in from behind. As they approached the central computer chamber, Alan made a hard decision. Frank, Lisa, keep going. The rest of us will hold them off here. But, Captain, Lisa began, that's an order. Earth needs that data more than it needs us. Alan and 3 others took defensive positions in the corridor while Frank and Lisa continued to the computer core. The sound of weapons fire echoed behind them as they ran. The central computer was a massive crystalline structure, pulsing with strange light. Frank immediately connected his device and began uploading the virus while Lisa plugged in a special drive to copy the Khazari database. How long? She asked anxiously. 3 minutes for the virus, Frank replied. Maybe 7. For a complete download. They didn't have 7 minutes. The sounds of fighting grew closer then stopped entirely. Either their friends had won, or they had fallen. They got their answer when the door opened and Vexthal himself entered, flanked by guards. The alien commander looked at the 2 humans with his multifaceted eyes. Impressive, he said. No species has ever breached our flagship before. Vexthal stepped closer, studying the 2 humans with curiosity. Your species continues to surprise me. No other race has ever infiltrated a Khazari flagship. Frank Ortiz kept his eyes on the progress bar of his virus upload. 60%. Complete. He needed to buy more time. We're full of surprises, he said to the alien commander. That's what makes humans different. Vexthal made a gesture, and his guards lowered their weapons slightly. I am curious. Why do you resist so desperately? Your defeat is inevitable. We have conquered 17 species, many more advanced than yours. That's exactly why, Lisa Bell replied, watching her own download progress. 45%. Humans have a saying, the nail that sticks up gets hammered down. We've been that nail our entire history. Explain, Vexthal demanded. Earth. Species have been trying to kill us since we first evolved, Lisa continued. Diseases, predators, natural disasters. Then we started trying to kill each other. War after war. We've survived it all. Frank nodded. When you've spent your entire history fighting to survive, you get good at it. 75% on the virus, 52% on the download. Outside the flagship, the battle raged across the Jupiter system. Earth forces fought with renewed fury, knowing that everything depended on the mission aboard the Khazari command ship. The hybrid human-alien vessels, built from captured technology, proved difficult for the Khazari to target. Admiral Daniels watched the battle from her command center on Earth. Any word from the Relentless team? She asked. Nothing yet, a communications officer replied. But the Khazari communications we're intercepting sound confused. Something's happening over there. Inside the flagship's computer core, Vexthal continued his unexpected conversation with the human intruders. If your defeat is certain, why not surrender? Save your species the pain of resistance. Because humans don't accept certain defeat, Frank said. 90% on the virus. We changed the rules instead. At that moment, the virus reached 100%. Throughout the massive ship, systems began to falter. Lights flickered, gravity wavered. The Khazari guards looked around in confusion. Vexthal's eyes widened with understanding. What have you done? Change the rules, Frank replied with a grim smile. The database download reached 70%. Lisa needed more time. Vexthal raised his weapon, but before he could fire, the ship shuddered violently. Explosions echoed through distant corridors. Sir, one of the guards called to Vexthal. Our engine containment fields are failing. Defense systems are offline. The alien commander looked at the humans with new understanding and fear. You planned this. Another explosion, closer this time. The guards stumbled as the floor tilted beneath them. Lisa checked her device. 85%. Alarms blared throughout the ship. A voice announced something in the Khazari language, the tone urgent. The guards looked to their commander, clearly asking for orders. Vexthal hesitated, then gestured toward the door. Evacuate the ship, all personnel to escape pods. As the guards rushed out, Vexthal remained, his weapon still pointed at the humans. Your companion set explosives throughout my ship. Probably, Frank admitted. Humans are thorough like that. The database reached 95%. Almost there. The ship rocked again, more violently this time. Ceiling panels crashed down. The crystalline computer structure pulsed erratically. Your species is unlike any we have encountered, Vexthal said, lowering his weapon slightly. You do not fight with honor. You do not follow the rules of warfare. We fight to win, Lisa replied as her device beeped. 100%. The download was complete. She carefully unplugged it and slipped it into her pocket. Frank stepped forward. You should go. Your ship is about to be destroyed. Vexthal stared at them. And you? You have no escape plan, do you? This was always a one-way mission. Before either human could answer, the door burst open. Captain Alan Wright stood there, bloodied but alive, with one surviving member of his team. Time to go, he said urgently. We found a shuttle bay nearby. Vexthal raised his weapon again, but Alan was faster. His shot caught the alien commander in the shoulder, sending him Staggering back. "Did you get what we came for?" Alan asked as they ran from the chamber. Lisa patted her pocket. "Everything. Their entire technical database." "And the virus is uploaded," Frank added. "It's spreading to every ship connected to their network." They raced through the disintegrating flagship, following Alan's lead to the shuttle bay. All around them, Khazari crew members were abandoning ship, too concerned with their own survival to stop the human intruders. They reached the shuttle bay and found a small Khazari transport vessel. Frank immediately set to work bypassing its security systems while the others stood guard. "How did you survive?" Lisa asked Alan. "The aliens were more interested in reaching the escape pods than fighting us," he replied. "I think we've finally scared them." When the shuttle's door opened, they piled in. Frank took the pilot's position, working out the alien controls. "I think I can fly this. The interfaces are similar to the scout craft we studied." The shuttle lifted off just as the flagship's main reactor went critical. They barely cleared the massive ship before it erupted in a blinding explosion. The shockwave caught them, sending their small craft tumbling through space. When they regained control, they looked back at the destruction. The Khazari command ship was gone, and throughout the system, alien vessels were in disarray. Without central coordination, their perfect formations had dissolved into chaos. "The virus worked," Frank said in awe. "It's affected their entire fleet." Alan opened a communication channel to Earth, using the codes Dr. Lawson had provided. "This is Captain Wright. Mission accomplished. We have the database and the virus is deployed. The Khazari flagship is destroyed." Admiral Daniels' voice came through, filled with relief. "Well done, Captain. Can you make it home?" Alan looked at Frank, who nodded confidently. "Yes, Admiral. We're coming home." The effects of the mission rippled across the solar system. Without their command ship and with their communications network compromised by the virus, the Khazari fleet began to retreat. Some ships continued fighting, but their coordinated strategy had collapsed. 3 days later, the remaining Khazari forces gathered at the edge of the solar system. Earth leaders watched nervously, wondering if this was preparation for a final desperate attack. Instead, the alien fleet turned and accelerated away, leaving the Sol system behind. In the war room, Admiral Daniels finally allowed herself to smile. "They're running." "Not running," Colonel Martinez corrected. "Regrouping. They'll be back, probably with an even larger force." "But by then," Dr. Lawson said, holding up the device containing the stolen Khazari database, "we'll be ready for them. With this, we can build weapons and shields as advanced as theirs, maybe even better." Captain Wright looked at the display showing the retreating alien fleet. "And we've sent them a message. Earth isn't just another conquest. We're the species that fights." Admiral Daniels nodded. "We're the one species that never loses." Far away as his damaged fleet limped home, Vexthal prepared his report for the Khazari High Command. For the first time in their long history of conquest, he would have to explain a defeat. But more than that, he would have to warn them. These humans were different. They didn't fight like other species. They didn't surrender when outmatched. They changed the rules, adapted, used their enemy's strength against them. Vexthal looked out at the stars, thinking of the blue planet they had left behind. The Khazari would return, of course. Their pride demanded it. But next time, they would come prepared for a real war, not a simple conquest. He touched his injured shoulder, remembering the human's words. "We fight to win." Perhaps, Vexthal thought, the Dominion had finally met its match.